Hello everyone, let's talk about resident abuse, okay? So the topic is resident abuse. So we have all different type of abuse, right? So what is abuse? Anybody know? When you do stuff intentionally, hitting, biting, kicking, fighting, pinching, you know, telling them words that do, you could go in your underwear, that's bad, right? So you don't want to tell residents, you could go in your underwear, it's okay, just go ahead, you know. I feel it's nasty, you know, so we don't want to tell them that, because that is a form of abuse. And also, technology, right? Why do you think technology is abuse also?
What technology?
Technology, you can't take their picture without their consent, right? You can't take any part of their body without their consent. So technology is a form of abuse also. So we have a different type of abuse. So abuse is defined as the willful infliction of injury, unreasonable confinement and intimidation, punishment with resulting physical harm, pain, or mental anguish. So basically that's what it is, doing something intentionally, you know, abusing them intentionally. And then we have verbal abuse. Verbal abuse also are considered abuse. So we have verbal abuse. And what is verbal abuse? Give me an example. Yeah, the derogatory terms, right? If you use to them or tell them, listen, you got to get up now. I have 15 patients on the hall I need to take care of. You can't say that. That's not nice. You got to be calm, collective, give them joy and happiness and peace, you know, for the rest of their life that they have. So that's what we need to do, okay? We can't be using derogatory term. So that's not a good thing. So that's verbal abuse. And verbal abuse, as I say, come in different form, okay? There's different things you could say to them that hurt their feeling. They may not be able to explain it to you, but it hurts, okay? Because they're either cognitively impaired, so they cannot actually tell you, listen, that what you said to me hurt me. You know, they can't say that to you. So we have to think as positive as we can towards them and make sure you give them joy and happiness. What's the other one? Sexual abuse. We know what sexual abuse is? Anybody know? Right, so it's defined as sexual harassment, sexual coercion, or sexual assault. Okay? So these are all these abuses that we just explained to you. They're all reportable if you're found guilty. Okay? If you're found guilty of any of these, it's reportable, and we'll go into that in a little while. Physical abuse, we know what that is, right? Hitting, slapping, kicking, punching, biting, and so forth, right? Controlling behavior through corporal punishment. What does that mean? Corporal punishment, you know, locking them up in your room, you know, different things, and tell them you're not going to do certain things for them. I'm not going to change, I'm not going to bring them food, you know, I'm not going to let you eat, I'm not going to give you anything to drink, you know, all these type of stuff. Involuntary seclusion, when you confine them into their room against the resident will, that you're behaving bad, so I'm going to throw you in your room and lock the door. Okay, you can't do that, that's a form of abuse. You cannot do that. Mental abuse, so what is mental abuse? It's also harassment, threat, punishment, withholding of treatment and services. So, you know, mental abuse, you're messing with their mind. You know, people like say, you're messing with my mind, don't say those things to me, or don't do those things to me. So mental abuse, those are mental abuse, okay? When you harass the patient, punishing them, withholding treatment or services that we talked about before, and neglect. What is it, neglect? So you fail to keep them happy, good services necessary to avoid physical harm, mental anguish, or mental illness. Because mental illness is also a form of abuse when you talk to them in a derogatory way, or you curse them and tell them, I'm not going to change you, I'm not going to do this for you, I'm not going to bring you food. You know, all these type of stuff are abuse. So we have to make sure that we don't abuse our residents. Make sure it's not you, you that's going to do that. So what does people go to jail for? What?
Teeth, hand, long hand.
What?
Long hand.
Long hand? Okay. Not only that, it's also when we're talking about abuse, people go to jail for assault and battery, right? So what is assault?
Hitting someone.
Now, when you assault somebody, when you assault somebody, what are you doing when you assault somebody? What?
You beat somebody.
No, assault. Remember, you assault first before you commit the battery. So when you assault somebody, what do? So you tell them, I'm gonna kick your butt, or I'm gonna slap you, or and then you actually do it. Say if the person say, I'm gonna slap you, and you actually slap the person, you assaulted them, and then you committed battery. Right? So assault and battery. You assault the person, you tell them what you're gonna do to them, right? And then you actually do it. That's why you go to prison, because you assault somebody, and then whatever you assault them about, tell them, whatever you're gonna do, I'm gonna shoot you, I'm gonna kick you, I'm gonna whatever you do to them. That's where battery comes in. And so it's assault and battery. Okay? Any questions so far? Freedom from abuse and neglect. So what can we do? What can we do to prevent abuse, neglect, misappropriation, and all the? So what do you think we could do to prevent this from happening? I'm sorry? Yeah, so we first of all, we want to make sure it doesn't happen, number one, okay? We want to make sure that none of us in there are abuser, right? So why do you think people abuse other people? Why do you think that would happen? Why would
Stress?
Stress, that's a big one. Stress, when you have, and what causes stress, right? What causes stress? You're tired, you're overworked, you don't have enough money to pay your bills, your son is in trouble, he's committed some kind of crime, So, when I'll put it this way, when our coworker call out and says, well, it doesn't matter because I'm calling out today because I have to do X, Y, and Z. But also we got to think about the resident that we care for, because this is our job, that we chose to do this type of work. So when we call out, I'm not going to use the word short staff, because when we call out, then we don't have enough staff to cover what we would like to do for a resident, right? So we also have to look at our coworker and say, please don't call out on Sundays. Sundays usually the day when it's really bad, okay? So we want to make sure that we talk to our coworker, we communicate with each other, and say, let's do this the right way, and remember that someday we're going to be where these residents are. We're not going to stay young forever, right? So just keep that in mind. And also, there's also other things, sometimes people are on drugs when they abuse other people. They may be alcoholic, so all these type of stuff causes stress. Stress is the number one thing that causes your blood pressure to go up, your heart rate to go up, all these type of stuff. So when we're stressed out, that's what we have, when we're doing this type of job, we got to make sure that we really take good care of our body. Remember, our body is the temple of God. All right, we don't want to throw junk in it. All right, because you ever hear this saying that you are what you eat. Right? Whatever we put in, that's what we get out. If we plant tomatoes, we're not going to get green pepper. Right? If you plant tomatoes, you can get tomatoes. If you plant green peppers, you're going to get green peppers. Okay, so in other words, what I'm saying to you, if you put junk in there, you're gonna get junk. If you put good stuff in your body, you're gonna get good stuff. Okay? So in other words, take good care of your body. Make sure you don't abuse, and make sure you communicate with your coworker and work as a team, and say, try not to call out on Sunday. Okay? Because I know you have to go to church, but if you do good things on the Lord's day, He will bless you. Okay, if you do good things, because the good things that we're doing is caring for a resident that cannot care for themselves. That's what we're doing, okay? So, the goal for Roosevelt Care Center is to make sure that we have no abuse. We are free environment from abuse. We want to be a facility that's abuse-free, okay? We want to make sure that none of our residents are abused because we care for them so much, okay? And we love them. And this is our primary concern, okay? So, when an abuse happens, it has to be reported to the director of nursing and to the administrator, okay? Then we will give them guidance as to what to do. If you look in your policy and procedure, you will see that the form that has to be filled in. Now, if we assume, we don't actually have to see it, but this person have a pattern of abuse. Like, you get complaint from this one, you get complaint from Mrs. Jones, you get complaint from Mrs. Smith, or you get complaint from Mr. Brown or so on, that this person is actually yelling and screaming and telling them to go in their underwear and so on and so forth. You assume something is going on. You can't prove it because you wasn't there, but we hold that very, very seriously, and we do an investigation to make sure that this person is actually not abusing that resident. We also do an assessment of the patient, look at every body part on that patient. If they say, they hit me in my stomach, we're going to look there. If they say, hit me on my arm, we're going to look there for marks, okay? Now, when you do verbal abuse, you know, the person might be crying because they are hurt. Remember that? You know, they may be crying or something. We know that something did happen. It could be burst in different ways, but we know something occurred with that certain patient, especially if a patient is alert and oriented and saying to us, you know, this certain things happen. They hit me, they slap me, they tell me to go in my underwear, and so on and so forth. So we know actually something is definitely going on. So we investigate that appropriately, okay? And we have to report it, okay? So that is important. We also try to do regular in-service, at least monthly and as needed. If anything happens, say a staff member abuse a certain resident on their shift or something, you know, we investigate that thoroughly to make sure whether it happened or didn't happen. Now, just keep in mind that, you know, we have to prove something before we can report it. So we actually go through to make sure we do the investigation and everything to make sure that a certain thing happened, because it did or didn't happen. And then we got to go through the memos and, you know, so on and so forth. And that person that is accused of abuse will be taken off their assignment and do something that doesn't involve the patient or the resident. Okay, so in other words, if you have an assignment, we're going to take you up. You're probably going to do other things like maybe fill the water pitcher or, you know, make the beds, or we're not going to have you in close contact with any patient. That's what I'm trying to say, is that you will not be in close contact with any resident until we could resolve that whether it happened or didn't happen, okay? So let's keep that in mind. So our facility would not condone resident abuse by anyone. So in other words, you also could have family member abusing their resident. And I'll give you a perfect example at one facility I used to work at, where the daughter came in, the father was a G2, and so this patient, her dad had diarrhea, right? So we decided to leave him in bed until the diarrhea ceases. So we gave him meds and everything and so forth. And then the daughter came in, and then she said, I was unit manager at the time, and she said, why isn't my dad up and out of bed? And I explained to her, you know, that why we didn't get him out of bed and so on and so forth. Well, she was a little bit insane, so she went there and tried to drag him by one hand. I was like, if you don't stop, I'll call the police. So she said, this is my father, I can do what I want. I said, no, not when he's under our care. You cannot do that. I said, this is a form of abuse and you must stop right away. She said, no, I'm not gonna stop. I said, well, I'm calling the police. Just so you know, I'm telling you what I'm doing. So I did call the police and the police came and everything. And by the time the police came, she had this guy outside in the wheelchair, outside the building. She dragged him, I don't know how she got him in the wheelchair, but she did get him in the wheelchair, dragged his father outside the building, and that's where the police found him. So then she had to come in, and if you wanted to discharge him right away, you know, of course, you know, if she's doing it against medical advice, she could do that, and we just report it to the physician, and that's what happened. But there was a big court case going on, and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to give you that little example. So, any kind of abuse that happened is usually reported, okay? As I said before, it's reported to the director of nursing and also to the administrator. If we actually suspect an abuse is going on, or we find a person guilty, or we could prove that this abuse did actually occur, we have to report it to the state licensor agency. We have to report it to the local state ombudsman. To the resident family member, we have to report it, and we also have to report it to law enforcement. So just tell you how significant this is. You know, if you are accused of abuse, you will not be able to work with a resident or any kind of group of people anymore. Because this record, once we found that you're guilty, is going to be on your record forever. Okay? So you will have to go to like McDonald's, Burger King, Kmart, you know, those kind of places. And if they're going to hire you, because usually people do background check to make sure that, you know, there's not abuse going on. But if that had happened and it's reported, excuse me, if it's reported, it's going to be in a record for the rest of your life. Just so make sure it's not you that's committed any kind of abuse. So then, you know, we have to fill out the application. It's a lot of work when somebody is actually, we can prove that they did abuse a certain person and reported the abuse. So we have to fill out all these forms. You know, we have to say what time it happened, what type of abuse, you know, all this. So it's reportable. Any type of abuse is reportable. Just so you know that we have to report that. It also could come against our 5-star rating, you know, that somebody in the facility has been abused somebody and is found guilty. So it's really, really significant that we try not to do any kind of abuse with any of our residents, whether it be verbal or physical, okay, or imprisonment or all that kind of stuff. Whenever, say for example, the person says certain person, you know, committed some type of rape on them, we got to make sure that we don't pay that patient. Okay, so we will not pay that patient. We just send out the patient for assessment to the hospital, but we will not pay that patient. Okay. So the supervisor on duty will make sure that that person is taking up their assignment. It's either depends on how severe the abuse is. You know, the person can be asked to clock out and go home pending investigation. Okay, just so you know that. If you see somebody is being abused or you even suspect that some type of abuse is going on, you need to report it. Because the law states that if you don't report abuse, you're as bad as the person that's doing it. And there's also a fine to not reporting abuse. And it's the fine, you want to know how much the fine is? How much? How much you think the fine is for not reporting abuse? Somebody want to take another guess? Miss B, how much you think it is not reporting abuse, knowing that you know this person is being abused?
5,000. 1,000.
300,000. So this is the problem. You see, 300,000 is right in your handout. It's in your handout. And listen, If you don't have $300,000, you can spend it out in the jail. So $300 worth of jail time. I know none of us, nobody in here probably have 300,000. Does anybody in here have 300,000? You have 300,000? Good for you.
300,000.
300,000 if you don't report abuse. It's significant. That's how important abuse is. I'm telling not important, but how important, because we have to make sure that it doesn't happen in our facility. Okay, that everybody in here is very good. And just let you know, on 2A, a couple of the family came up and said how good the staff is. That made me so proud. How good the staff is and how kind they are. And anything that they asked the staff to do, the staff was just pleased to say, yes, absolutely, I'm going to get it for you.
What about you, me?
So to 2A, and I didn't hear anything about 2B, but I'm looking forward to hear something good, and also for the third and fourth floor. But so that's a good thing. That whenever we ask to do something, we're willing to do it, and that's a good thing. So that brings joy to the family and also joy to the resident. That we're kind to them, even though these residents are demented and some of them are confused and everything. They'll never forget how good you've been to them. They may forget what you say or even what you do, but they'll never forget your face. Because when they see that face, they see kindness there. And that brings joy to them. So, just keep up the good work. And I know you guys are going to do it because you're good staff. And just keep on doing what you're doing.
That's true. That's the way she does it.
And also remember that we could also have resident abuse. That need to be reported also because we have to do something. So what are we going to do if we have resident abuse? What are we going to do?
Report it.
What?
Report it.
Report it, but before we report it, we're going to report it absolutely, but we're going to just leave them there.
Bring that on first.
You want to separate them, right?
Yes.
Absolutely, you want to separate them, even if it's only temporary, because remember, some of these patients, if they have this aggressive behavior, they can't help it. The brain is not functioning the way it should, so they have this type of behavior going on sporadically. Okay? So we want to separate them temporarily because we want to keep them safe. We want to make sure that they don't hurt each other, right? So then we also have to do an incident report because it's behavior resident to resident abuse, right? So, and also what else we got to do? We got to notify the resident representative, right? We got to notify the family member, right, that this went on. We have to make sure we do incident report for both residents because they both, if you hit me, I'm hitting you back kind of thing. So they start fighting with each other. So, we got to make sure. And also, what else we got to do? We got to develop a care plan, a behavioral care plan, right? How, what this patient is doing. And what else can we do? What else can we do for this? If this continues to happen with resident to resident abuse, what else can we do? What? So, sometimes even though our resident is confused, we could also get a psychology to speak with them or a psychiatrist, but we don't want to throw our hand in the air and call Dr. Shaw, and then what Dr. Shaw do is put them on more antipsychotic medication. We want to eliminate that because sometimes more is not better, in other words. So we want to get them at less antipsychotic medication as possible. Actually, our 5-star rating is a little bit high, meaning that our number is high, we need to bring them down lower, okay? Because we have too many people that are on antipsychotic medication, and sometimes these medications are making them nuts. In other words, they're giving them behavior issues, side effects, all this kind of thing. So we want to make sure that we bring those antipsychotic medications down. especially with the Alzheimer patient. So we will have resident-to-resident abuse because, as I said before, they're confused. You know, the brains is not working the way it should. You know, like our brains are working right now. So we want to make sure that we keep them safe. All right. So then we have to get together and have a meeting and say, what can we do for this patient? So I want you to report abuse. You know, if you see anybody being abused, please report it. Report it in a timely manner. Don't wait until you get home and say, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to report that.
What about the resident abusing?
I'm sorry?
Resident.
Yeah, but that's what I just said that the patient, they're cognitively impaired. Most of them that have behavior, right? Mm-hmm. Our patients are cognitively impaired. They could call you the derogatory term one spell, and maybe hit you the next spell, and then the other spell they're laughing in your face and saying hello, how you doing, and so on and so forth. Am I right?
Yeah, what we do about that?
Yeah. But if they are cognitively impaired, what can we do? Remember, our resident is always right? If they think, sometimes residents think that you're not laughing enough, you're not talking to them in a calm manner, and sometimes you don't realize it because sometimes it's your culture that you speak loud, and maybe they don't like that. There's different things that trigger a resident. Like, for example, they may scratch you because they said, "Oh, you're hurting me." When you turn me, you hurt me. Remember, this is geriatric population. They have pain in different areas. Okay, they're not really walking. Some of them are in wheelchairs. When you sit for a long period of time, you start to ache. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Right. So, it's not, sometimes they want to explain something to you, but they don't know how to do it. Like say, don't turn me like that because, my right side hurts. Right? And then they strike out at you, and that's how they communicate. It's not because they really want to slap you or hit you or pinch you or bite you or whatever the situation might be. In other words, their communication is like when you turn me out, boom, right? They hit you. But they can't communicate that to you because they're cognitively impaired, okay? Some of them have dementia, but they still feel, they feel things, they feel pain. They feel when you're turning and position them. But they can't tell you, right? That, please, turn me a little gentler or something like that. So just keep that in mind. If they don't break your bone or something like that, then, just... if they break your bone, just know that they're cognitively impaired. That's something that they do intentionally. Now, abuse is something you do intentionally. They don't do that intentionally to you, like slap you or whatever. Or is that they're trying to communicate to you that, hey, when you turn me, I feel pain. So they can't communicate that to you. So that's any questions? So just make sure that you report in a timely manner. If you see anybody being abused, report it. Report. Okay, and you're going to save $300,000.